Hello, I am here to explain to you a little bit about a process that we call active reading. And it's a process that will help you take notes and answer questions and prepare for tests in a manner that will be efficient and successful. So today Belinda is here with me and she has brought some questions from her classes. So let's see what her questions are.
Hi, Alicia. My teacher says I'm not answering the questions the way she expects me to, and I'm not sure how to go about learning from how I'm reading. So can you help me?
What do you do? Do you usually read? What do you do?
I personally read everything quickly and hope that I absorb it all.
Okay, so the first part of this section, I'm going to explain to you a method that has been tried and is true for many years that we call now active reading. The name of the method used to be SQR3. And in active reading, we try to get involved in the reading so we don't fall asleep and so that we also get the meaning that we need to get from that text. So the first portion of this, and this is what we're going to talk about today, is about surveying what you're going to read and then trying to answer questions as you're reading so you're more focused in your reading. So let me show you this as you bring your book. So the surveying part of this should not take more than 5 minutes, maybe 10 if it's a very long chapter. And what you need to do is go through the book and you realize, okay, I have a photograph here. Kind of quickly make yourself kind of acquainted with the picture. There's some young people, a lot of words here, more photographs. There is a portion here, it's titled Research, and it's standing out, it's sticking out of the context. So maybe this is something you just need to see, be aware of. Photographs. And kind of an interesting photograph here is right in the middle of the text. You keep looking. Oh, you have a little box here. Usually when you have textbooks and you have these boxes, it's something important that you need to remember. You have a comic strip, somebody taking a selfie, I believe, some books, more comic strips, a lot of text, another box. Okay. Then you have a couple of big titles and you have some objectives. You don't need to know anything other than this is what the chapter is looking like. Okay, there's a chart here. And this chart is something that you need to remember. Okay, in my chapter, there was a chart and start with a hypothesis, ends up with a conclusion. You're just sort of browsing to make sure you know what's in this chapter.
It's kind of a long chapter.
Yeah, it could be. So these are charts, and charts are really important to remember. Charts are utilized to transfer a lot of information, and so you need to pay attention to them. You're just kind of getting familiar with this. More charts and more graphs, and you have a lot to study in this chapter, I can tell, because of a lot of these little boxes. More charts. Okay. The print comes in different colors, so maybe that makes a difference. Sometimes you have things in red. Okay. Then again, a box that is outside of the text. I think we've seen 2 of these. Mm-hmm. Those are probably things that you need to read later, or they're probably just kind of enhancing your reading. Okay, a schedule. So you're maybe getting here to the end. They're talking about application here. More comic strips, a lot of comic strips here. More charts and pictures. And here we get to the end. It's a chapter review and there's a practice test. And that's about all for this chapter. You have about 29 pages. And the purpose of surveying is like taking a sample, it's like give a little taste of what the chapter is. And it may seem like, oh, why do I need to do this? It'll start preparing your mind for what is in the chapter. It's like giving up a little preview. The next step after we do this preview, and remember, is only about 5 minutes, and the purpose is just to get familiar with the text, is to take all these titles and turn them into questions. And so you need to say here, so this one, for example, says the search for direction. And so this book is easy because it gives you the learning objective. So you can read those and you can propose a question. So what is the search for direction? Describe the search for direction. Make a list of all the possible directions. You need to come up with a question, and you turn every single one of these blue titles into questions. You get a piece of paper and write all your titles that you're going to turn into a question. I usually give each title about a page, because when I'm reading, I may find things that belong to that question down the chapter, and I don't want to run out of space. Now, you may want to just do half a page. Some people like note cards. I give each question a page. So, like in here, for example, you have red titles that go under the blue titles. So you need to make a note of that. And go through the whole chapter like that. These are great. They're always on the top, and they give the objectives. It's a great book. And so you shouldn't have many problems with this. As you do this one, for example, what is the scientific method approach to behavior? That's what I would say. Then you need to remember that this one has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 subtitles so far, 13. And so when you answer that question, what is the scientific approach to behavior? You need to put,
Okay.
each one of those.
The answers are right there.
Yeah, and then you need to, in the next step, we're not going to explain today because we're going to go over this in the next video. You need to answer that question utilizing what you have in the text. It's not giving your opinion. It's not like, oh, what's the psychology of adjustment? Oh, I remember when my auntie came back from Hawaii and she had to adjust and this is what she did. No, it's not that. You have to use the information that the book gives you. Maybe if you had notes, if you took notes in class and maybe your professor mentioned this, it would be good to review those notes so that you start to answer all these questions utilizing what the text says and what the teacher might have said. Now, this may sound to be long and tedious, but you will be entertained because you're looking for something. You're looking for an answer. Right? What is the psychology of adjustment? And you have 2 titles, so you need to address psychology and adjustment. And so you need to read that with the purpose of answering that question, giving examples on that question. When you're done, go to the next one. So you're not just reading and reading without any purpose. You're reading, answering these questions. Then when it's time to study, you know what you have to study because those questions are right there. As you are reading and writing and paging through and making more questions, you're learning because you're seeing the material so many times. You're looking at it from so many different angles that you are learning it. This may take you some time, but it will take you, there's no other way than taking time to do these. You may spend all the time, and using another method, reading, and with no purpose. So you may get bored, you may fall asleep, you may forget what you're reading about, and you still use the time, and you don't have much success in terms of reading or learning.
Well, it sounds like a method I want to try.
Good. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you.